Thank you for this presentation. Um, our session take place in the framework of the old form of democracy and peace, trying to discuss how cultural diplomacy can contribute to peace building. We have addressed this theme many times at conferences of the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy in Berlin. But now, in recent years, war is no longer something we watch at the cinema or on TV. Every day, even as we speak, people are dying in Ukraine and Gaza. Local conflicts have become regional and now threaten to become global. Can music help create a spirit of peace that proclaims love and non-hate, eliminates violence, and spreads understanding between people? 2,000 years ago, the Greeks said that when guns talk, the muses are silent. Among the 7 muses were the muse of poetry, the muse of dance, and Clio, the muse of history. I believe that in times of war, literature, music, and dance must speak. And perhaps then history, personified by Clio, would look different. Why music? Because 3.5 decades ago, music and the spoken word succeeded in bringing down the communist dictatorship in Eastern Europe, ending the global Cold War, and the most murderous regime in the history of the world, responsible for the deaths of tens of millions of its own people, leading to the establishment of democratic regimes throughout the former Soviet space. For the first time in human history, the transformation took place peacefully. Millions of people occupied the streets and squares of major cities in Central and Eastern Europe, the Baltic states, and the former Soviet Union in 1990s, rendering the weapons and tanks of the army and security forces useless. After the fall of the dictatorship, the liberated peoples decided through free elections to bring in presidents for academic and cultural backgrounds as recognition of their role in awakening democratic consciousness. The best known of these were the playwright Václav Havel, President of the Czech Republic, the rector of the Tallinn University of Music, Leonard Meri, President of Estonia, the rector of the Vilnius University of Music, Vytautas Lambergis, President of Lithuania, the professor of philosophy at Sofia University, Julio Zhelev, the president of Hungarian Writers' Union, Arpa Gönc, the philosopher Geremek and Mazovic from Poland, and one of the most important scholar in nuclear physics, Shushkevich, first democratic president of Belarus. I try to illuminate some of this seemingly forgotten history by recalling the role of that music has played. For me, this is also a moral duty, because many of those listed above, the first democratic presidents of their countries, were a close friend of mine, and sadly are no longer with us. Even before 1989, the music of the free world has played a role in shaping the democratic consciousness of peoples under the Iron Curtain, awakening in their souls the ideals of freedom, democracy, and peace among people. At a time when Western music, considered imperialist and decadent by the authorities, was banned or carefully censored, the musical movement of the West had a great impact on the consciousness of oppressed peoples, at once through folk music associated with the hippie peace movement and jazz, which through improvisation promoted freedom of expression. The road to freedom and democracy for countries under the political military domination of the Soviet Union after the Second World War began in 1977 with the solidarity of Czechoslovak cultural personalities led by Czech dissident writer Václav Havel and Slovak journalist Jiří Dinsbír, with the students of the Prague University of Music's Rock's band, Plastic People of the Universe, who were expelled from the university and investigated after an underground concert. The Charter 77 Manifesto document, criticizing the Prague government for refusing to implement the human rights provision of the Helsinki Charter, was also signed by the intellectuals such as Bronislaw Geremek from Poland, Gabor Demski from Hungary, Paul Goma for Romania. It was still too early, the repression too strong, and the number of signatories to the Charter too small. But the idea of protesting for human rights remained. In August 1999, at the meeting called Picnic with Music on the Hungarian-Austrian border, participants crossed into Austria, marking the first breach in the Iron Curtain, followed by the exodus of East Germans through Hungary and Austria into the free world. In the same month of August 1989, citizens of the Baltic countries form a human cordon from Estonia to Lithuania, which was called the Baltic Chain or Freedom Chain, initiated by Leonard Meri, rector of the University of Music in Tallinn, Estonia, and the Vytautas Lambergis, rector of University of Music in Lithuania. At the other end, 2 million people joined hands, singing and dancing along a human chain of more 600 kilometers in the 3 Baltic countries, showing the popular desire for independence, of self-determination, as well as the solidarity between their peoples, approaching the independence of the Baltic countries of the Soviet Union not as a political issue, but as a moral issue. In January 1991, Lithuania became the first Soviet republic to declare independence when peaceful demonstration led by Vytautas Lambergis occupied Vilnius television. Soviet Union President in the time, Mikhail Gorbachev, sent KGB special forces to suppress the demonstration, declaring that a musician will not be able to defy the authority of the Soviet state. 14 peaceful demonstrators was killed and 600 injured in Vilnius, but Lithuania gained its independence. An evocative example of the revolutionary year 1989 is the liberation and reunification of Germany. In East Germany, protests against the communist dictatorship began with religious music in churches in Dresden and Leipzig. They continued with those who, in Dresden, at the end of the Verdi's opera Nabucco, with the famous chorus of robins, took the streets to demonstrate peacefully for freedom and democracy. We are now in Berlin, the most fitting place to evoke the role of music in the liberation, democratization, and reunification of the German people. While folk and jazz music helped shape the consciousness of freedom among oppressed people in the second half of the 20th century, rock music played the most important role. First, there were the rock concerts held in West Germany near the Berlin Wall, attended since the summer of 1987 by the Eurythmics, Genesis, and Michael Jackson and others. Faced with the crowds of young East Germans gathering on the eastern side of the world to listen to music that had previously been forbidden to them, the authorities allowed concerts by GDR rock bands. The consciousness of German cultural unity prevailed over repression. Each German tore down the wall, and the communist government resigned. Shortly after the fall of the Berlin Wall, in 21st July 1990, Pink Floyd, alongside Van Morrison and Bryan Adams, performed their album, The Wall, at Potsdamer Platz, among the ruins of the Berlin Wall, in a concert that was attended by an estimated 300,000 people from both Western and Eastern Berlin, signifying the true start of Germany's reunification process. For my part, I had the opportunity to personally participate in the events in Romania that led to the collapse of the communist dictatorship of Ceausescu. In 1989, the struggle for democracy against neo-communist power after 1990, and the establishment of the first democratic regime in my country in 1996. The 1996 movement in Romania were largely the work of young people at the time. University Square in Bucharest became a truly free space, and through the songs then, the Romanian nation rediscovered a spirit of liberty. In November 1996, the crowd that filled University Square in Bucharest when my victory in the presidential election was announced was made up mostly of young people who came spontaneously to celebrate that they saw as their own victory. This year, we marked the 35th anniversary of the collapse of communism. In the 20th century, starting in Eastern Europe, the world wars broke out, in which tens of millions of people died, and subsequently, tens of millions more were killed by communist dictators. Now, at the beginning of the 21st century, the war in Ukraine has marked the beginning of the Second Cold War, a hot war in which young people of both sides of the front line are dying every day, and the threat of the new World War, which is nuclear, would turn into a real apocalypse. Can music play a role in what we call cultural diplomacy now, when it seems that classical diplomacy is not working and the military confrontation is not likely to end soon? I'm convinced that it can. For many, it seems impossible now. But if when all means of communication that appeal to reason fail, music, which appeals to the soul, could once again bring people together in the spirit of peace. I believe that music can also play an important role in the culture of peace through education. It is already a force that brings huge crowds of people together, filling stadiums around the world and being broadcast by the global media. Perhaps many of them are there to forget about the difficulties of life and to distract themselves from the violence that is increasingly prevalent in society. But if music is explicitly used as a component of the culture of peace through education, its role could become all the more important. Meeting with young people from different parts of the world representing different cultures, just like the meeting organized by the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy today, can contribute to this noble mission. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you a lot for your talk and for the presentation. It was very interesting that it was, I'm here, that it was visualized, everything that you were telling. My question would be, when you're talking about the music and this power of music that can help or can influence the situation, do you also mean that the silencing of music can also change the situation, in a meaning that sometimes in a conflicts or in war, one side has to be silenced or not heard, and in that way it is the absence of music that we hear. Does it resonate to what you were telling, or I misunderstood it? Thank you.
Is other questions? Other questions? Thank you. Because to all answered. Answers for all questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. President. My question is on the part of young people in Romania. Young people seems to be moving away from Romania. In 2000, the population of Romania were 22.5 million. And now, as we are speaking, is 19.5 million. And it seems like most of young people are migrating from Romania to other European countries. Maybe we need to know what is the root cause for these young people to move from Romania to other countries.
Any additional questions or comments?
Your questions, because I want to answer of all questions.
Mulțumesc, domnule președinte. Thank you, Mr. President, for your speech. I completely agree that music actually played a huge role in the sort of liberation movements of the 90s, and in fact, I was thinking when the question about absence of music was asked about the killings of musicians in Russia, like Victor Tsoi, for example, or others who were sort of representing the protest movement and they were silenced. But what I struggle with these days is, the willingness of our young people to address in their creative expressions, like music or art, political choices. So I see more and more in Moldova, but also elsewhere, that young people prefer to sort of stay away from politics, or stay away from making these sort of bold, big statements. I've seen a little bit the resurgence when the war in Ukraine started, but still it is by far not of the size and power of the cultural and musical movements of the 90s. Why do you think that is? What are we missing maybe in our education system or in our societies more broadly to foster in our young population this ability and willingness to address big issues through their creativity?
I have a question. Please. Thank you, President. I'm so sorry because I came late, but my question is that after 2000, more young generations immigrate to the, for example, the other countries. This is the economics problems or the other issues. The young generations come to, for example, in Germany and other European countries. What's the reasons of this? Thank you.
Other questions? For two questions related on problem of migration, it's my duty to, to answer because it's related on my life. The problem of migration talk about difficulty of transition. This difficulty was in history, recent history in all countries. The same happened in Italy. Italian work, young Italian work after the end of Second World War in 60, 70 years. Work in Germany. In my memory is a movies, realist movies, Italian extraordinary realist movie presented the disparate situation of young Italian working in Germany. Many people, young people from Portugal, work also in Germany or in French. After the Second World War was a huge migration to United States from Germany also, and for other country from Europe. Is a period. People from Turkey work in Germany, but apart came back in Turkey. It was the same in Romania. And what is a positive? Great part of budget of Romania grows because people, millions of people working in Germany, in French, in Great Britain, sent billions of dollars to family of Romania. Billion of dollars. What is not only speak only of signification, financial signification, not represented desire of people to come back, because this money sent to families from Romania is used to building houses, to transform villages, but is idea to come back. And I am optimistic. I have an optimistic view. Is a with us is a former prime minister of Moldavia. Is the same what happened in Moldavia. Part of Moldavia work in Romania. Well, a problem, different problem, is related to brain drain. This is a completely different, because a part of young, important part of young people emigrated now is in a higher level in IT and in medicine. Is a dramas, a real dramas is for Great Britain, because important part of in medicine is not represented by Britannics. It's represented by doctors coming from India, secondly coming from Italian, and now from Romania. In German, it's great quality. And we have now one of my former students, now Minister Consular in the Romanian Embassy, now arrange a meeting tomorrow for me with high level of intellectual Romanian working in Germany. Was a problem also. It is very delicate to study this complex problem. Was a tendency because in Romania state support education, higher education, and is a huge amount of money from form at medicine. Is 6 years in medicine for following 3 years, paid by Romanian state. And after 9 years, immediately they migrate in Germany, in Great Britain, in French. Was idea, because I was in the university of my colleagues, to oblige to pay, because in United States, in Great Britain, is a particular, it's not state support education. And in this manner, Romanian state support education, medicine field from Germany and United States maybe. But people said me, what is your position? Because I was president of council of rector of all Romanian university. I said, in the special case of Romania, young people fight and dead for liberty and democracy. It is impossible for us, especially for me, to support idea that pay for liberty. To choose is a problem, is a moral problem for each. Is a responsibility for each person to decide. I don't have a judging what. Just after revolution, I was invited. I was professor in Duke University, United States. Proposed to me to remain. My decision is to come back in Romania. Other my colleagues remaining in United States was the same their decision, because it's important now. The moral is a moral unity in this signifying the people is not related by the soul. If conserve in our case Romanian identity is not important ways. We may be in Australia, in United States, in Germany, remaining conserve Romanian identity in this global world. For the other problems, I have here, I invited here with me, Max Onofrei. He is a young researcher of the Institute of Advanced Study for the Culture and Civilization of the Levant, who in 1989, his father, who was my student at the Faculty of Geology, told me that he came with a child in his arms in the idea that the repressive forces would not shoot. Max was 1 year in that time. other demonstrators were giving the army and Securitate flowers. This didn't prevent them from opening fire after midnight to kill and injure the participants in the rally, including my colleagues, my students, my neighbors in the block. I think it would be much more interesting to hear the opinion of someone who is the age of the young people attending the ICD conference today.
Well, sorry. Thank you very much, Mr. President. A very close, a very short point on what both of your questions. I myself left Romania for the UK and decided to come back. And in addition to what President Constantinescu has said on the matter, unfortunately, actually, I also believe there's another element to it. It's a question of Romanian self-identity and our inherent sense of self-worth. In that, being an Eastern European country and looking to Western Europe for guidance and morals and everything, we tend to, shoot ourselves down and consider literally anything that's outside of our purview to say to be better. And because of that, Western Europe and America and pretty much the entire other developed world exerts a high pull on our youth, including myself. I actually have a 16-year-old cousin who, upon asking her, she's going to Italy because why would I stay here? And unfortunately, this is a mentality that we will need to change and internalize and show young people that, like myself, I've come to find out, every country has its very, very good things and very bad things, and it's just a question of choosing them, one or the other. To Prime Minister Gavrila's point, on one hand, I don't really, I'm sorry, I forgot what I was about to say. This is the first time I'm doing this, so. I don't, one of the issues might be for youth non-engagement. That because of our, increasing reliance on technology and very acute dopamine hits, maybe young people don't feel the need to coalesce and congregate and talk about the issues that will matter to them. But then again, I'm a bit older than most people using those platforms, so I can't really say. But I think, like, how we've seen in recent years, like with the climate, for example, with the climate movement, with Extinction Rebellion and Greta Thunberg, it is an example of how young people can rally around a cause. And I think maybe with the outbreak of war in Ukraine, that the little glimmers of hope that we have seen can, in time, come to coalesce around something greater. And I'm sorry, but I didn't really hear the entirety of your question, so would you mind repeating it, please? Thank you.
Yeah, my question was toward the role of music in times of crisis in politics, since it is political, whether the absence of the music, the silence, is also political, and whether it has its place in politics, the silence, absence of music, when someone is not heard, because that's not their time.
That is a question that it's so deep and it goes so many ways. I don't think I can answer it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to pass back to President Constantinescu on that one, because I don't know. Is my answer. They should, but I don't know why they don't.
I want to add the information. Max Onofray is a graduate of Scotland University of Edinburgh. And after the graduate, he come back in Romania. It's an example of option. But finally, answer for you about music. In one of the sessions of the World Forum in Baku, where I had an address, Federico Mayor, the former director of UNESCO, who was a moderator, asked me, Emil, what do you think a perfect world of the future would look like? I wonder if the exciting and generous theme of the shared society is a challenge, a hope, or a dream. If we look for an answer in the conflict-ridden history of mankind, in which solidarity has more often been achieved against something that for a common goal, it will not be very hopeful. If we ask science, it will tell us that we live in the world of uncertainties, for which, with the exception of politics, ways have been found to manage. If we ask music, we will find that there is hope for the dream to come true. After all, a shared society is like an orchestra in which different instruments playing different chords can achieve harmony. The final of the Beethoven's Ninth Symphony was chosen for the anthem of Europe, in which the instruments of the orchestra are joined by human voices, soloists, and choir. When they choose this anthem for Europe, they may have had in mind only the ode to joy, but I dare say the symbol was deeper and had in mind the possibility for the present and future member state to work in harmony while preserving this identity. This is a cultural diplomacy. Silent or play is two ways. It's a responsibility of each person.